Hi, today on transformation, this is a fun topic for me because it's the first topic that I started teaching about on my own. It was first written about in my book, What You Feel, You Can Heal. It was the foundation, I believe, of my success because after I've been a monk for 9 years, developing my spiritual self, my spiritual foundation, what happened was then I could only see the truth, in a sense, inside myself. I could no longer suppress my feelings, and these feelings from childhood just started coming up. And I didn't know what to do. It was a very dark time in my life till I learned with this greater consciousness, and I'm aware of these dark things inside of me, how could I let them go? And I found a variety of very positive processes in order to let go and heal the unresolved issues of our past. And I wrote about that in my first book, which is called What You Feel, You Can Heal. And it's filled with cartoons as well to help explain. I wasn't the writer I am today, so I needed to rely on cartoons to sort of express many of my ideas. Now, ironically, 17 or 18 books later, my most recent book, which is called Venus on Fire, Mars on Ice, actually has lots of wonderful cartoons in them, and they're professionally done, so I didn't do them. But my message certainly lends itself to cartoons because they're visual, and this is about things you can see. It's about people relating and interacting, and also it's an easy way to express situations is using cartoons. So I hope today I'll be able to express some of these ideas in a simple way. And this book, What You Feel, You Can Heal, is actually a book that I give away free to any school, to any class, to any shelter, in the prisons they have it. Until I run out of them, I still have a pretty big inventory of them. As long as people pay for the shipping and they want a lot of them, like a box, we send them out for free. And they're just all around the world. Over 1 million copies have been sold of my first book, which is quite phenomenal. I mean, most people haven't heard of it. They've all heard of Men from Mars. But, there's not that many books in the market that have sold over 1 million copies, maybe 20 at most. And, here's one of the top-selling books of all time. But it's called What You Feel, You Can Heal. And what's wonderful about it is it's so easy to read. It's so simple because it gets right to the direct issue of one simple concept. Is to change our lives, to transform our lives, we have to be able to feel the blocks within us. And when we can feel the block and identify the block, then we can go deeper and feel the emotions inside of the block. And then we can feel those emotions quite naturally as we give our awareness to that. The light goes to the darkness and illuminates it, and these things just dissipate. It's literally like you're shining a light on a bunch of cockroaches in your house and they run out. I mean, they'll just go away. I don't know if cockroaches really do that, but it was a good image for me. They're running away. And you shine a light and they run out. Well, this is really an automatic thing that happens. I remember one of the little cartoon images in the book is your feelings are messengers. If you're afraid, they have a message. And if you don't listen to that message, they knock harder and harder on your door. Sadness and grief has a message. If you don't knock longer, if you don't listen to that and learn from that message, they're going to knock and get louder and louder and louder. Anger has a message in it. And if you don't listen to the anger inside of you, if you have a negative idea about anger, and certainly people can misuse anger, but if it's inside of you, it's there for a good reason. There's a message. And until you hear the message, identify what that message is, which is causing that anger, then you'll stay angry and it can just control your life. It can cause high blood pressure, all kinds of problems when we don't know how to listen to our feelings and go into them, hear the message, and let them go. So they're always knocking on your door. And you know what happens when you don't listen to your feelings? And you just suppress them inside of you. And that might look like just being numb all the time, or it might look like every time you have a little feeling of uncomfortableness, you go and you watch TV to suppress your feelings, or you go and you eat a bunch of desserts or whatever, and that will suppress your feelings. You always hear about that emotional eating thing. Nobody ever says how it works. And very simply put, it takes a lot of energy to digest your food. Stuff yourself with food, and now you don't have any energy left to feel. So your aliveness starts going down. You become numb. And that's what happens to people when they don't feel what's going on inside. They start getting numb. They start getting flat. Look at little children that are all over the place, haven't yet learned to suppress their feelings. They have total aliveness. Their body's regenerating itself all the time. So here with this whole idea of getting in touch with feelings, we have to learn how to manage them, not get stuck in them. People get afraid of that. We're going to explore also for parents how to give messages to your children so they won't have to go to therapy one day, so they won't have these issues, and you can save them a lot of bother and help them discover who they truly are. And today, as my co-host to share some of these ideas, is my friend, Chris Valentine. And we're going to be talking about some of these issues, and he'll have some questions for me. And just as I'm talking right now, any questions come up for you?
No, but I identify so much with what you're saying. And having the pain of not being on your path, I've experienced that and I know what that's like. And I have a passion in life for the nature spirits. That's who I work with. That's on a daily basis. And I really, really, really wanted to get their message out because once I started working with them and hearing the profound wisdom that they had, I wanted to share that with the world. And I felt a book was the best way to do that. And before that happened, I would feel pain, like I want to get this out, I want to get this out. And not only was I feeling that pain, but I was also experiencing something else that you were talking about, was eating to suppress your feelings and getting numb. And boy, was I getting numb. I was using carbohydrates, and after I'd have carbohydrates like desserts and things like that, I would be so tired that I wouldn't be able to do anything anyways.
That's right, too tired to feel. So at least you don't feel the pain.
Exactly, and I didn't know that was happening, and you're explaining it so well, but you get in that cycle where you have a purpose, you want to get something out, and then you're so exhausted that you're not doing it, and then you feel worse. Eventually, we finally got the first book out, and let me say, it was with the help of the nature spirits. Thank goodness they helped me so much because almost all of the book is channeled directly from them, so I owe them so much.
All right, now tell everybody the name of your book.
The first book is called If You Could Only See a Gnome's Story. And all of the...
Did you hear that? A gnome.
Exactly. People say, oh, you're the author of a book, and you know what I say? I am. I'm co-author with Dr. Christian von Lahr, but really co-author with the nature spirits because we really like to give them credit because just about everything in the book is directly from them, and then our experiences and what we learned is from them too, so it's like they wrote the books.
One of the exciting things about having Chris on the show is he's an expert on all these nature spirits that most of us adults don't see at all. And as children, many times we did see them, we've just forgotten it. I mean, how many of you can actually remember what happened at your birth? How many of you can remember when you're 1 year old? How many of you can remember when you're 2 years old? Most people can't remember. Well, actually what was going on at those times is these presences were there. Sometimes I look at my little grandchildren when they're like 6 months old, and they'll be looking up and they're looking around like this, and what are they seeing? We don't know, but they'll forget it. We all forget it. And when we connect back to our childlike self, one of the attributes is an openness to see those nature spirits. And when I thought about what you feel you can heal, I thought the perfect person to share this conversation with is Chris, because he has that childlike part of him which is able to see the nature spirits, communicate with the nature spirits. And I thought, along with these messages that I will share from my innocent book, which is What You Feel You Can Heal, all about identifying the childlike part of us, that there's nothing more delightful than to hear about the nature spirits, and just let yourself be open. But we're going to ask a few questions, and then I'm going to come back to talking about how we heal our feelings, because we have to be childlike, which is open to these sorts of things, not closed. So notice any barriers you might have and just have fun with this. So I want you to tell me about gnomes and leprechauns. I still remember watching the movie on leprechauns. I loved it. I went to watch it over. The little people, who are these little people who bring you to a pot of gold? Well, again, even that is a perfect metaphor for when you're able to see the little people and you're in touch with your inner child, it leads you to a pot of gold. You get wishes. I mean, it's an amazing metaphor when you see some of these things. But there's actual realities. There are non-physical realities that we don't see with our senses. Some people expand out. And as children, we start with that and then we narrow in. Scientifically, what we do know is children really can't identify their parents right away. The way they identify their parents is by the whites of the eye and how intensely white the eyes are, and of different people. That's really about all they can focus on, is the contrast of black and white. And in that field, there's all these non-physical things that they're hearing and they're listening to and they're interacting with and being influenced by. And this is the people who talk about this, and Chris is one of those people. So part of transformation is always challenge ourselves to think a little out of the box. So just put your doubts to the side and experience the joy that you feel as you hear a few stories about leprechauns and gnomes and what they're telling us now according to what Chris's experience is. So tell me a little bit about leprechauns and who are the nature spirits. There's fairies. And talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, there's all.
Chris was looking in my garden. He said, well, the fairies are here, and then you got a gnome over here, and you got this over there. It was quite delightful. Just lit me up. Because, even in my garden, I got a little statue of a gnome. I got angels around my house. It's wonderful to know that putting your attention on those physical forms helps to invite these loving, nurturing, supportive forces in nature. So tell us about what goes on in the garden.
Well, gnomes are earth nature spirits, so if you're into gardening or you have a garden, they're going to be the ones helping you. Their role is bringing minerals from the earth to the roots of the plants and up to the plant. And if you have heard of Findhorn, that is a famous place where they grow these gigantic vegetables. And it's all organic, it's all natural, but it's like miraculous the size that these pumpkins and these vegetables come to. And it's because they're working hand in hand with the nature spirits.
Can we pause for a moment? I remember when Findhorn wrote their first book, and I read that book, I was inspired by all that. I've actually never been to Findhorn, but I know people that have. Actually, my wife has actually created her own little Findhorn out of our backyard here by learning to communicate with the nature spirits. So this is going to be fun stuff. And then we'll keep bringing it back to what you feel you can heal. Because as we open our hearts to new things, that's a good time to learn about how we can heal ourselves. So we'll be right back, and we'll talk more with Chris.